Hey guys, tonight we travel back to Memphis, 1927, a city where the sun sticks to your skin like molasses and the sidewalks hum with brass and backbeats. You're not walking alone. The smell of fried catfish curls around corners, kids chase dogs barefoot through alleyways, and distant trumpets echo like ghosts with nowhere else to go. The buildings sag a little, like they're tired of holding up history. But they hold it anyway. You pass a window where lace curtains flutter, and someone inside is humming. A blues riff seeps out, lazy and slow, like a yawn stretched across the delta. It wraps around your ankles, whispers up your spine. It sounds like heartbreak dipped in honey, and that's how the blues always sounds here. Tonight's story isn't just about that sound. It's about what happens when a voice is too powerful to ignore, too black, too bold, too free for the comfort of certain uniforms. You'll hear the song that got a woman locked up, and how it refused to stay behind bars. You'll meet a cop who thought control meant silence, and a singer who taught the world otherwise. Just so you know, you probably won't survive this if you're allergic to deep feelings, old microphones, or justice served slow and smoky. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're all listening from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge down Beale Street with shoes that stick a little in the heat. The brick buildings rise like silent witnesses, their faces pocked and painted with decades of sweat, joy, and struggle. Signs swing in the breeze, barber shops, pawn stores, juke joints. Every other door leaks music like it's too full to hold it in. You duck into a tiny cafe on the corner, where the tea's always sweet, and the gossip even sweeter. Inside, a man with silvered hair is cleaning a trumpet with the reverence of someone polishing a relic. He nods at you but doesn't speak. He's listening. So are you. Out back, the alley curls around a worn-down wooden building with a red light glowing in its single window. The paint is peeling. The door creaks like it doesn't want to open, but you push through. Inside, it's thick with cigar smoke and perfume, and the tables are just close enough to rub shoulders with strangers. You hear the scrape of a stool, then silence. That kind of silence that only means one thing: she's about to sing. You feel it before you see her. The hush. The holding of breath. Then Lena May steps into the spotlight with a smile like a secret. Her hair is pinned high, her dress clings like wet silk, and when she opens her mouth, you forget how to blink. Her voice isn't just beautiful, it's true. It climbs the rafters and coats the walls. It's a story, a sermon, a spell. The room sways with it, a single heartbeat wrapped in rhythm. You feel something rise in your throat, but it's not sadness, it's recognition. That someone's been where you've been, felt what you felt, and dared to sing about it. You look around. People lean in, as if trying to get closer to the sound. One man's crying softly into his glass. A woman mouths the words, eyes closed, like she's praying. The music doesn't just play, it heals. And then, you feel a chill. In the back corner, near the bar, sits a man who isn't tapping his fingers. His drink's untouched. His hat's pulled low, but not enough to hide the badge glinting on his belt. Officer Griggs. Even the saxophone stutters when his gaze sweeps across the room. He doesn't move, doesn't smile. Just watches Lena May with the kind of focus you'd use to track a threat. You shift uncomfortably. You're not sure what he's thinking, but you know it's not applause. Lena finishes her set to a thunder of claps. People cheer. A woman throws a flower onto the stage. But the tension doesn't break, it just pauses. Outside, you hear sirens in the distance. Inside, the bartender pours drinks a little quicker. And Lena? She walks past Officer Griggs like he's furniture. She doesn't bow. She doesn't smile. And he notices. Later, when the crowd's thinning and the room's gone soft again, you catch a few notes of conversation between the bartender and a regular. She don't know who she's messing with. She knows. She just don't care. You lean back in your chair, heartbeat slowing but not steady. The air still buzzes. You think about Lena May's voice and how some songs rattle more than windows. Because in this town, music's not just sound. It's defiance. And some folks, especially the ones with badges, aren't ready to hear what it's saying. You wake the next evening to heat already hanging in the air like a wet curtain. It's the kind of sticky that turns every movement into a decision. The kind that tells you trouble's coming before anyone says a word. The streets have their own tempo tonight. Less swing, more stomp. You pass two women leaning on a balcony, fans waving in sync, whispering fast and low. One pauses to glance toward the alley near Red Lantern Lounge. That's where you're heading again, where Lena May's voice lifted the room last night and curled around your bones. You push open the same tired door. Inside, the crowd's bigger, louder, like people heard something they didn't want to miss a second time. You spot the regulars from before smiling, swaying, drinks in hand. But the energy is different. Nervous laughter, eyes darting more, chairs shifting uneasily. Then, she appears. Lena May slides onto the stage, wrapped in midnight blue tonight, her earrings swaying like tiny moons. The chatter falls silent again. Like last night. Like magic. But her smile? It's sharper. Let's start with something real soft, she says, voice smooth as sweet tea. Then we'll build to something that stings. You feel the whole room lean in like a field of sunflowers chasing the same warmth. She sings low and slow, like she's telling you a secret you forgot to remember. Her fingers curl around the microphone like it's the last honest thing in the room. The notes float, then grip. Her voice stretches across the walls, pulls at the floorboards, unearths memories that didn't ask to be remembered. And when she hits the high note, that note, it's like time skips a beat. You aren't the only one who flinches. At the back, near the shadows, Officer Griggs is there again. He's not in uniform, but you don't need a badge to smell the threat. His jaw's tight. His boot taps a rhythm that doesn't match the music. He looks like a man choking on something he can't name. Lena sees him. Of course she does. She doesn't falter. Instead, she steps closer to the edge of the stage and shifts the next song without a word. It's slower now. Smokier. The lyrics turn sharp. Not vulgar, just true. She sings about hands too rough, rules too crooked, eyes that look but never see. You carry the law, she sings, but forget the love. The room stills. You feel your own breath catch in your throat, as if afraid to be heard agreeing. Then Griggs stands. No one else moves. He crosses the room with steps that sound louder than the applause. You expect him to wait, to confront her backstage, to maybe throw shade with words. But no. He reaches into his coat, pulls out a folded slip of paper, and lays it on the bar like it's a royal decree. The bartender reads it, frowns, hands it to Lena. She doesn't flinch, doesn't fold it. Instead, she reads it aloud, disturbing the peace. Indecent performance. Public provocation. She looks back at Griggs and raises one eyebrow. You forgot improper harmony. A few folks laugh, nervously. The kind of laugh that might get them cuffed too. Griggs doesn't. He gestures to the door. Let's go, he says, his voice low but carrying. Lena finishes her drink, wipes her lips, and walks off the stage with a grace that makes his authority look like a tantrum. You follow them outside, just like everyone else. The night air hits you like a wall. The silence out here is worse than the music stopping inside. Griggs opens the back of a police wagon. Lena turns to the crowd. Y'all be sure to hum a little louder tomorrow night. For me. He shoves her inside. The doors slam. The wagon rattles down Beale like justice in reverse. And suddenly, the music city goes quiet. Not because it's sleeping, but because it's watching. You head home slower than usual. That note, the one she hit, the one that cracked something open inside you, won't leave your ears. You hum it, softly. So do two women passing by. A man across the street whistles it low. No one speaks it out loud. But no one forgets it either. The next morning is quieter than you expect, but it's not peace, it's the hush before thunder. You walk down Beale Street again, and something feels off. The vendors don't call out like they usually do. Kids aren't skipping stones in the gutter. Even the saxophonist who always plays under the rusted lamp post is gone, like the music's gone into hiding. You pass the Red Lantern Lounge. Its windows are shuttered, even though it's only noon. Someone's drawn a chalk heart on the wall, half erased by a boot scuff. Across the street, two barbers lean outside their shop, arms folded, talking low. She just sang a song, one says. She sang too well, says the other. You keep walking. The police station looms up ahead, squat and stern like it's daring someone to question it. You hesitate outside the iron gate, and for a moment you think about turning back. But then you hear something faint, a hum, a tune. Familiar. Lena's tune. It's coming from inside. You slip through the front doors, your shoes clicking too loud on the tile. A receptionist looks up and raises an eyebrow, but doesn't stop you. Maybe they're used to people wandering in for answers they'll never get. Down the corridor, you follow the hum to the holding cells. And there she is, Lena May. Her dress is rumpled, her lipstick smudged, but her eyes? Clear as moonlight. She's seated on the edge of a narrow cot, ankles crossed, chin high. Thought you'd come, she says softly. You ask her why she's humming. She grins. Walls got ears. Might as well give him a concert. You glance around. The other cells are empty. The whole place feels too still, like it's waiting for someone to lose patience. What now, you ask? She leans back against the wall. Now we wait for them to remember I'm not the one they should be scared of. You stay there a while, just listening. The tune she hums isn't sharp tonight. It's slow, soft, like rocking in a chair on a front porch with nothing left to prove. But the lyrics, those would still sting if she chose to sing them. A door creaks at the end of the hallway. Heavy steps echo. Officer Griggs. He stops outside her cell, arms folded. You think you're clever, he says. Lena shrugs. No, I know I'm true. That bothers you more. Griggs sneers. Your people, always thinking a little music makes you untouchable. It doesn't make me untouchable, she says calmly. Just unforgettable. He doesn't like that. You can see it in the way his mouth tightens, the way his fingers twitch like he wants to reach for his nightstick, but knows it won't help here. You'll stand before a judge tomorrow, he says. Don't think that song will save you. She smiles. Depends on who's listening. Griggs storms off. His footsteps sound like threats. You turn to Lena. He's going to make it worse. She nods. He already has. But now? Now people are paying attention. You leave the station with that thought gnawing at your ribs. That night, Memphis hums. The juke joints are quieter, sure. The stage at the Red Lantern stays dark. But people are humming. Not just the tune, her tune. Men sweep their storefronts and whistle it under their breath. Women sing it while hanging laundry in the dusk. Someone plays it on a trumpet from an open window, just one slow refrain over and over. It spreads. You hear it while buying gum at the corner store. You hear it from a passing trolley. And for the first time in a long time, Griggs is the one who hears it everywhere he goes. He steps into the diner, and the waiter is whistling it. He strolls past the newspaper stand, and there it is on the front page. Singer arrested for blues. He rips the paper in half. But that doesn't stop the sound. Because once a voice echoes through enough hearts, there's no badge strong enough to silence it. And Lena's voice? It's just getting started. You wake to thunder, not the weather kind, but the kind made of murmurs and footsteps and newspaper headlines. The streets are shifting. Something in the air feels sharper today, like even the dust is listening. You pass a corner store where two older men are leaning on crates, sipping coffee thick as molasses. She didn't even curse, one says. Didn't have to, the other replies. Truth don't need seasoning. They both nod like it's scripture. You make your way to the courthouse. You're not alone. Folks are walking with the kind of quiet purpose that only happens when enough is enough. Grandmothers in wide hats. Teenagers with folded arms. Church deacons and bartenders. Housemaids and factory workers. All headed in the same direction. You slip inside and find a seat in the back row. The courtroom smells of stale paper and sweat. The ceiling fans whirl, but don't help much. Up front, Lena May sits between two appointed lawyers who look like they'd rather be anywhere else. Her hands are folded in her lap. Her back is straight. She's wearing the same dress from her arrest, but there's not a wrinkle on it. She pressed it herself this morning, you'd bet. Pride is still free, after all. The judge arrives. You recognize him from the newspapers, Judge Crawley. Pale, powdered, with eyebrows like angry quotation marks. He adjusts his glasses and squints at the room like he smells something off. Let's be quick, he mutters. The charges are read aloud. Disturbing the peace. Lewd suggestion. Incitement through performance. You glance around. A few chuckles. A few eye rolls. Then Lena stands. She's not asked to, but she does anyway. Your Honor, she says, voice steady. I'd like to say something. One of her lawyers tugs her sleeve. She gently shakes him off. Judge Crawley sighs. Make it brief. She turns to the room, not just to the judge, to everyone. I sang a song, she begins. And if you're trying to jail me for that, then let's just be honest about it. Someone in the back clears their throat. A nervous tick, maybe, or the start of something more. I didn't shout. I didn't scream. I didn't spit. I didn't start a riot. I sang. Her voice doesn't tremble. Not once. And maybe the truth in that song made some people uncomfortable. Maybe it made some people mad. But that's what songs are supposed to do, Your Honor. They hold mirrors. The courtroom holds its breath. Griggs sits 2 rows behind you, arms crossed, staring daggers. But Lena doesn't look at him. Not once. You can lock the door, she says. You can fine me. Shame me. Silence me for a day. But the song's already out there. It's in their ears now. In their feet. Their hearts. It doesn't need me to keep playing. Her lawyer leans over, whispers something, probably sit down now. She does. Judge Crawley removes his glasses, wipes them, puts them back on. There will be a recess, he says, voice pinched. The courtroom murmurs as he vanishes through a side door. Outside, the sun blazes. You step into it and feel like blinking against more than just the light. Around you, people stand in clumps, retelling what they just heard like it was a sermon. You spot Officer Griggs near the bottom of the steps. He lights a cigarette with shaking fingers, then tosses it before taking a puff. He mutters something under his breath and disappears into the alley. Back inside, after lunch break and more heat, the judge returns. This court, he says slowly, finds the defendant in violation of Public Ordinance 6A regarding unsanctioned vocal performance in a commercial establishment. A hush. Then the sentence. 30 days in county jail. Fine of $50. You hear it land like a slap across the room. Not the punishment, the principle. Lena just nods. As the guards move to take her away, someone hums. Softly. Just a note. Her note. Then another joins. Then a third. By the time she reaches the door, 10 people are humming. No one says a word. But the walls are vibrating. Griggs stares, pale. The judge fidgets with his papers. And Lena? She smiles. Because they still haven't learned, songs can't be sentenced. You walk the streets of Memphis that night, and something has changed. Not loud, not explosive, but steady. Like a river carving its way through rock. The bars are open, but quieter. The music is softer, more deliberate. Everyone's waiting. You stop at the Red Lantern Lounge, though there's no performance tonight. The door is locked, but someone's lit a single candle in the window. A vigil, maybe. Or a promise. Word of Lena's sentencing travels fast. By morning, it's painted on headlines and murmured across cafe counters. Blues singer jailed for disorderly conduct. The language is polite, sterile. But the people? They know what it really means. You visit the county jail 2 days later. Not to see her. Visitors aren't allowed yet. But to hear. Because someone said she sings at noon and sundown, and it echoes through the walls like church bells for those who know how to listen. You sit on a nearby bench, pretending to read a paper. Around you, others do the same. A janitor. A young woman holding a child. A man selling peaches from a cart that's been parked there too long. Then, like clockwork, it begins. Low. Gentle. The sound of her voice rolling out through the bricks like honey through cracks. She's singing a lullaby this time. Not one of her usual sets. This one's slower. Older. It carries memory in every syllable. A little girl sitting nearby starts humming along. Her mother hushes her, then joins in. And you realize, she's not performing. She's reminding. Inside that cold cell, she still holds the crowd. Not with fire, but with warmth. And maybe that's worse for men like Griggs, because fire you can fight. Warmth? It spreads. That evening, a group gathers outside the jail. They don't chant. They don't shout. They hum. Just her tune, over and over, like waves kissing the same shore. Griggs sees them. He stands by a window, arms folded, jaw tight. He calls for backup, but there's no riot, no broken windows, no fists in the air. Just people sitting on the curb, heads tilted toward the sound of a voice that refuses to disappear. You hear later that he ordered the radio in the jail turned up to drown her out. Didn't work. She sang louder. The next day, he pulled strings to move her to a different wing, one further from the street. The humming crowd followed to the back lot. Someone brought a gramophone. Someone else brought coffee. By the fourth night, there were over 100 people there. Griggs told the mayor it was loitering. The mayor told him it looked more like history. That week, Lena's cellmate is released early. You bump into her in line at a bakery and can't help but ask, what was it like in there? She looks at you with a crooked smile. It was like jail. Cold. Ugly. Then she adds, except when she sang. She describes how Lena would wake before dawn, press her clothes with her hands, and sit quietly until the guards passed by. Then, she'd begin. Sometimes a gospel song. Sometimes a blues riff. Sometimes nothing but humming. She doesn't fill silence, the woman says. She guides it. You walk home with that in your ears. Back at your apartment, you turn on the radio, hoping to hear something else, but the news cycles are full of her now. They say she's disrupting the system. They say she's becoming a symbol. But you know better. She's not trying to be a symbol. She's just singing. And somehow, that's scarier than 1,000 fists. Because symbols can be painted over. But a song? A song seeps into wood, into people, into time. And Lena May's voice? It's getting louder every single day. You wake to rain tapping your window, a gentle rhythm that reminds you of fingers on piano keys. The city feels washed, softer somehow, but the tension still simmers beneath the puddles and peeling paint. You head downtown with your collar turned up, footsteps echoing off quiet storefronts. The Red Lantern is still closed, its window candle replaced with a paper sign that reads, "We remember. We wait." You pass a paperboy hollering headlines, and one of them stops you cold. Blues singer hums through jail. Tune sparks citywide stir. You buy a copy. It's thin, not much ink spent, but the message is there. She's singing, still. Not just in her cell, but through people, through radios, through memories. At the jail, the crowd is larger today. Some hold umbrellas. Some don't care. They sit on crates, porches, curbs. There's a guitar, a harmonica, and one old man tapping spoons on his knees. You lean against a telephone pole and close your eyes. And then you hear it. Her voice. It starts so faint, you wonder if you're imagining it. But no, it's there. Weaving through the drizzle, curling through brick and rust. A blues line carried on nothing but breath and belief. She sings of rooms too small, dreams too wide, nights too long. She sings of hands, hands holding, hands hurting, hands reaching across divides. And through it all, you hear the one thing they can't take from her, dignity. You wonder how a woman, locked in a concrete box, can sound so free. A boy nearby turns to his mother. Why they lock her up for singing? The mother stares straight ahead. 'Cause she sang it too well. A man in a pressed suit kneels beside them and pulls out a portable recorder. "You mind if I capture this?" he asks. The mother nods. "Just don't sell it." He smiles. "No, ma'am. I plan to play it." Later, you follow the sound to the back of the crowd where a group of college students hand out slips of paper. "Join the circle," one reads. "We hum every evening, 6 p.m., all over the city." They've created something. You don't know what to call it. Not protest, not church, but something close to both. You decide to go the next evening. Not to the jail, but to a park near the river, where a dozen strangers form a wide circle, standing in silence. One woman begins humming. Then another. The sound swells, slow and sure. It's not perfect, but it's beautiful. At some point, someone claps. Just once. The circle holds. And then comes the whisper. "She's singing right now." And in that moment, you realize none of you have ever seen her perform since the arrest, but somehow, you all feel like you have. The next morning, inside her jail cell, Lena sits cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed. The guards stopped trying to shut her up 3 days ago. The warden tried earplugs. Didn't help. Now they just let her be. Some whisper that the warden even stands at the end of the hallway some nights, listening. He says nothing, just listens. Lena's voice is tired today, but still clear. She sings a lullaby written just yesterday, made from words she hears outside her window. Rain don't rust the truth. Silence ain't always peace. You can jail a woman, but not her voice. You don't know how much longer they'll keep her in there. But something tells you it won't be much longer now. Because the music? The music's already out. And it never needed permission. By the time you reach the courthouse again, it's not for another hearing. It's for the noise. Not the loud kind, but that deep hum beneath the skin of the city. The kind that makes even old buildings listen. The Red Lantern might be shuttered, but the sidewalk outside it is alive. Someone's chalked musical notes across the pavement. Someone else has written, "Lena lives here." Not in body, of course, but in echo. Downtown, you hear whispers of a new name, the judge with powdered hands. That's what people are calling Crawley now. Not because of how he rules, but because of how he's starting to crack. You see it yourself. You're walking past the courthouse steps when you spot him, standing with his coat pulled tight, squinting at a newspaper. His assistant is talking, but he's not listening. Because over on the far corner, a boy's sitting on the edge of a planter box, humming softly. Lena's tune. Just one line, over and over. The judge stares, then turns and disappears into the building. Inside, court is business as usual, petty disputes, zoning violations, tired faces. But you hear murmurs about Lena May's case being revisited. They say some things don't feel right. They say the mayor got a letter. They say the governor might be listening. Later that night, you find yourself walking a block from the jail again. You weren't planning to, but your feet had other ideas. There's a man standing there, waiting. You recognize him. It's Reverend Collis, from the church 2 blocks down. He turns to you. You think she knows? Knows what? He tilts his head toward the building. That she's already changed everything. You don't know how to answer. So instead, you both stand in the rain and listen. This time, there's no song, just silence. But it doesn't feel empty. It feels full. Back at the jail, Lena is pacing. Her voice is raw tonight. Too many songs, too much concrete. But her spirit? Unbroken. She's sketching lyrics into the margins of a smuggled newspaper. No pencil, just a blunt bit of charcoal she found behind the cot. She hums the first line, then stops. Because something's wrong. The hallway is too quiet. And that's when she hears it. A cough. A shuffle. A low, gravelly voice. The warden. You got a visitor, he says, unlocking the door. She looks up. He adds, he ain't on the list. But felt right. In walks a man you haven't met yet. But you will. His name is Rufus Clancy. He runs a small independent label out of Mississippi, and he's got a portable recorder the size of a typewriter slung over his shoulder. He sits on the edge of the cot, hands her a tin cup of warm coffee, and says, "Sing it like it's your last time." And she does. She sings everything. The jail, the arrest, the courtroom, the silence, the sound. Her voice cracks halfway through the second verse. But she doesn't stop. She just lets it crack, like a bell rung too hard, ringing truer for it. Rufus doesn't speak when it's done. He just nods. Then he leaves. And that tape? It's about to travel. You don't know it yet, but in 3 days, a radio station in Atlanta will play it late at night. And in 6, it'll be on a college station in Chicago. And in 10, someone will play it outside the New York subway, open guitar case at their feet. But right now, it's just one song. In a jail cell. Sung by a tired woman with smoke in her voice and steel in her spine. And it sounds like history finally starting to hum in tune. The next morning, the streets are buzzing, but not with car horns or market vendors. This buzz is different. It's rhythmic. Electric. Every street corner in Memphis feels like the edge of a secret about to break. You step into a bakery just before noon. Behind the counter, the radio is playing low, but even through the static, you know that voice. Everyone in the shop freezes, mid-chew, mid-sentence. The baker's hand trembles above a tray of sticky buns. Lena May. On the air. Your heart stumbles. The DJ says nothing. He just lets the song run. No intro. No sponsor. Just a slow fade into those first humming notes, like the city is holding its breath together. You've never heard silence like this. People quieting to listen. A woman outside her apartment lowers her laundry to hear better. A cab driver pulls to the curb and kills the engine. A boy drops his marbles mid-play. Inside the song, Lena doesn't sound angry. She doesn't plead. She tells. She lays out each piece of her arrest like cards on a table. She lets every beat breathe. Lets the listener feel the cold bench, the snapping cuffs, the echo of her own voice against a concrete wall. And then the line that breaks you. You can chain the singer, but not the note. You don't cry. Not right away. But someone does. The man behind you sniffles into a paper napkin and mutters, "My mama used to hum that same rhythm when she washed dishes." The DJ comes back on after the song ends, voice hoarse. "No commentary needed," he says. "Just think about it, y'all." He plays it again at sunset. And again the next morning. By then, it's not just local. Other cities are picking it up. Chicago, New Orleans, Atlanta, even Detroit. Lena's tune becomes a ghost train rolling through the airwaves, refusing to stop at any one station. And people start writing in. A lot. Letters flood the jail, addressed simply to Lena May, the one who sings. They come from mothers, soldiers, school teachers, even a choir in Oregon. Some include hand-copied lyrics. Others just say, "Thank you." The guards stack them in her cell like bricks. She reads them at night, fingers tracing every curve of every name. "I didn't know I was that loud," she jokes to the cell wall. You hear that one letter, in particular, came from a famous jazz singer in New York. Said she hadn't felt moved by a voice like that in decades. Meanwhile, Officer Griggs is unraveling. He's not sleeping. He's patrolling longer hours, barking at street musicians, tearing down posters that say she's still singing. He tries to file a complaint with the radio board. Gets laughed out of the room. He corners the mayor in a hallway. The mayor shrugs. She didn't curse. She didn't name names. She just told the truth. Griggs slams his fist against the wall that night. Says the city's slipping. Says it's getting soft. But the city's not soft. It's awake. And the more he tries to silence it, the louder it hums. He orders officers to crack down on loiterers outside the jail, only to find half of them are local preachers, city council members, war veterans. The circle outside grows, now dubbed the humming vigil by newspapers. They come with candles, with blankets, with quiet, defiant presence. And Lena? She sings once at sunrise, and again at dusk. Same tune, same voice, but louder, now that it has 1,000 throats carrying it through every alley and rooftop in Memphis. And you? You hum too. In line at the butcher. In the hallway at work. While brushing your teeth. Because the song sticks. Not like a melody. Like a memory. It's been 10 days since Lena's song first hit the airwaves, and by now, it's not just on radios, it's on records. You didn't even see it coming. One moment, folks were passing around tapes and recordings in brown paper envelopes. The next, there's a hand-pressed vinyl labeled Cell Block Blues, Lena May sitting in a shop window on Union Avenue. No picture, just her name. You step inside the record shop. It smells like dust and linseed oil and old memories. The clerk behind the counter is playing her song again, but this time, on a new turntable. The needle crackles. Her voice rises, warbled just slightly from the pressing, but still unmistakably hers. He looks up and grins. She outsold Duke Ellington yesterday. 1 box left. You buy it without blinking. Outside, a group of teenagers pass by. One of them is humming. The others join in, not in sync, but close enough. At a nearby school, a teacher starts her history class by playing the record and asking, "What do you hear in her voice?" One student answers, "It sounds like someone who isn't asking anymore." In a diner down the road, 2 older women sit sipping coffee. One of them slides a worn photo from her purse. "She sounds like my sister did before they made her quiet," she whispers. The waitress hears. Brings them a piece of pie. Says nothing. But she's humming when she walks away. Even churches get in on it. A gospel choir in South Memphis arranges her tune into a Sunday hymn. They don't change the words. They just raise the harmony, so that even the back pew feels like it's swaying. The label that printed Lena's record isn't even based in Tennessee. It's some tiny outfit from down in Biloxi. But the owner heard a bootleg copy and said, "That's the sound of a country cracking open." Back at the jail, Lena doesn't even know it's out there, at least not at first. But she hears the guards whisper. And then she hears the new sound. Footsteps pacing in rhythm outside. But not just pacing, stomping. Dozens of feet marching together at dusk, the same time she sings. She asks a passing guard, "That a riot?" The guard grunts. "That's a parade." In Atlanta, a saxophonist's name is said after her. In Detroit, a street painter scrawls her lyrics across the side of an abandoned theater. In Baltimore, a teenage girl who's never been west of the mountains starts carrying around a notebook of her own lyrics, all written in Lena's cadence. And in Memphis, they keep humming. One night, you walk past a little pawn shop. Inside, a man with a busted guitar is tuning the last string, tapping his foot to Lena's beat. You stay a while. Listen. He's not copying her, he's answering her. The blues has always traveled. But this time, it's moving differently. It's carrying her. Griggs tries again to shut it down. He tells the city council that she's spreading unrest, that she's becoming a dangerous symbol. Someone replies, "Symbols only bother you when they're accurate." At this point, even the press can't keep up. They try to downplay it, call it a passing moment. But the people writing the headlines? They're the same ones humming at their desks. Even the judge, remember Crawley with the powdered hands, has been receiving letters. At first, he ignored them. Then he read one. Then 5. One night, he's overheard saying to a clerk, "It was just a song. Maybe I shouldn't have made it a sentence." But it's too late for regrets. The record is now moving north. And Lena? She doesn't ask for a lawyer. Doesn't want a pardon. She just asks for a pencil. And when they bring it, she writes 5 new verses, each sharper than the last. Because she knows now, she isn't just a singer anymore. She's a sound that refuses to sit down. And every time you hear her voice spin from a dusty speaker or out of a humming crowd, you remember. It started in a jail cell. And now, it refuses to stay caged. Officer Griggs stands in the rain outside the precinct, water sliding off the brim of his hat like shame he can't shake off. He lights a cigarette with trembling fingers, but the wind snatches the flame. He curses, flicks it away. The world's too wet for fire today. He thought it would be over by now. He thought if he made an example out of her quick, quiet, it would die in the walls of that jail like so many voices before hers. But instead, it's grown teeth. You see it everywhere. Music shops now hang signs that read, featuring Lena May in red marker, and the kids gather around the bins like they're collecting scripture. Her voice, once confined to a juke joint's backroom stage, now crackles from radios in diners, on porches, in taxicabs, and even from a police cruiser that didn't realize its window was cracked. Griggs hears her voice more now than he hears his own, and it eats at him. So he lashes out. First, it's the small things. He harasses street musicians, fines shopkeepers for noise violations, shouts at a man humming in line for stamps. He tells them, this ain't music, it's a mob in disguise. No one listens. Then he takes it further. He raids a record store at night, claims they're selling subversive content, smashes a display table, seizes half the vinyls. But the very next morning, there's a fresh stack of cell block blues in the window, arranged into the shape of a microphone. And someone scrawled under the glass, "You can break the table, not the tune." Griggs storms into City Hall the next day, demands stricter enforcement, demands Lena be silenced, moved, forgotten. The mayor listens with a tired expression, then leans back and says, "She's singing from a jail cell, and you're still losing." Think about that. Griggs doesn't go home that night. He heads to the station, finds an old crate of seized radios, pulls one out, and tries to tune the dial. Like maybe if he hears her directly, he'll understand how to stop it. But all he hears is the same thing over and over. That voice, that warmth, that truth. Back at the jail, Lena's been moved to a new cell. Not out of punishment, but proximity. Her new window faces the street now. And every evening, when she sings, she can see them. Dozens of people below, holding candles, humming with her. She smiles when she sees children on their father's shoulders. When she hears the tinny echo of her own song bouncing back at her from a harmonica on the curb. And even when she's tired, so tired she can barely sit up, she still sings. Because it's not just her voice anymore. It's theirs. And the song? It's outgrowing even her. You hear whispers that Griggs is being investigated. Internal affairs poking around his old reports, retracing his steps. Rumors say there was more than just Lena. More than just one arrest. Turns out, the louder the song gets, the more the cracks show in the silence that tried to hold it down. The final straw comes when Griggs tries to shut down the vigil. He marches down with 6 officers, orders the crowd to disperse, threatens arrest. They stand, not yelling, not resisting, just humming. One officer looks at Griggs, then at the crowd. Then he hums too. Griggs screams, tells them all to leave. But no one moves. A grandmother takes her place on the front line, lights a single candle, and begins to sing Lena's lullaby. Soft, steady. Griggs lowers his hand, because in that moment, he understands. Power can silence people, but it can't make them forget. And once a song lives inside someone, it lives forever. You wake to the sound of someone playing the blues through an open window, not loud, not boastful, just there. Like morning birdsong in Memphis. Like air, if air carried memory. You stretch, dress, and step into a city that now walks to a different beat. Lena's beat. The one that Officer Griggs tried to smother. The one that rose anyway. The headlines today read more like poetry than news. The voice they tried to cage sings louder than ever. City marches to the sound of one woman's blues. You grab a coffee at your usual spot, and even there, someone's playing her track on a battered jukebox. A man you've never spoken to nods at you over his cup. Feels like it's always been there, don't it? He says. You nod. And it does. That night, you join the others on the courthouse steps. Not because you have to, but because not going would feel wrong. Like forgetting a birthday. Or leaving a chair empty at dinner. The humming vigil has grown. Hundreds now. There are flutists, violinists, full choirs some nights. And always, always, the humming. No chant. No fists. Just sound. Griggs is nowhere to be seen these days. Word is, he's been reassigned. Others say he was quietly suspended, pending investigation. The precinct won't confirm anything. But what you do know is, no one's enforcing his silence anymore. No one's tearing down the flyers. No one's stopping the radios. The system that once echoed with fear now hums with music. Lena's lawyer. Yes, she finally got one worth his salt. Files a formal request to overturn her conviction. The motion catches wind in the media, then fire. A civil liberties group steps in. They send letters, petitions. One morning, a small article appears in the paper. Judge to reconsider case of blues singer Lena May. You'd expect cheering, fireworks, celebration. But instead, more humming. Because that's how this story breathes. Quiet, steady, like a bass line under history. Back in the jail, Lena is handed the newspaper through the bars. She reads it slowly, then folds it neatly and tucks it under her pillow. No smile, just a breath. A long one. Then she turns to the window and sings again. But this time, it's a new song. The melody's familiar, but the words have shifted. Less sorrow, more steel. A kind of reckoning. She sings about the weight of truth, about the cost of being heard, about what it means to live in a world where your freedom starts as an inconvenience. And beneath her window, people sway. You hear it all from your place on the curb, next to a boy who's whittling his initials into the side of a milk crate. He's humming too, doesn't even realize it. The next afternoon, the courthouse announces that Lena's case will be reopened. Full hearing. Public. It's scheduled for 3 days later. The city prepares, not with banners, not with marches, but with breath. With voices warming up. With vinyl records dusted off and radios tuned in. And when the night before the hearing arrives, you can barely hear the crickets. Because Lena sings through that jail window like it's the last night of a too long winter. And all of Memphis listens like spring is waiting on her voice. You arrive early to the courthouse, but it's already full. The line snakes around the block. People lean on lampposts, sit on stoops, fans waving in sync like a slow gospel rhythm. No signs, no shouting, just presence, just waiting. You squeeze inside and take a seat in the back, wedged between a florist and a woman holding her daughter's hand tight enough to leave a memory. Inside, it's warm, not from the weather, but from the breath of history sitting on everyone's chest. Lena enters with her lawyer at her side. She's wearing a pale yellow dress, the same one she wore years ago at her niece's baptism. You heard someone say she chose it because yellow shines even in shadows. The room stills as she walks past the front row, eyes forward, shoulders proud. Judge Crawley is already seated, older now, thinner, with eyes that blink slower than they used to. His powdered hands rest quietly on the bench, fingers laced like someone bracing for truth. He adjusts his glasses and clears his throat. We are here to reconsider the conviction of one Ms. Lena May Freeman. Even the air seems to pause. Lena's lawyer stands first. Not flashy, not angry, just honest. She sang a song, he begins. No weapons, no crowd control, no call to arms. She sang about pain, about dignity, about a kind of freedom that scares people who only know how to hold it by the throat. There's a stir from the left side of the courtroom. Soft murmurs, heads nodding. She was arrested not because she broke the peace, the lawyer continues, but because she disturbed a false one. The kind that sits atop silence. He steps back. No dramatics, just truth. Then Judge Crawley gestures toward the witness stand. And in walks him. The crowd leans forward. You do too. It's Officer Wills. He was there the night of the arrest. One of the officers who stood beside Griggs. Who kept his mouth shut. But now he looks older. Not just in age, but in weight. He swears in. Sits. Adjusts his collar. I was there, he says. Red Lantern Lounge. I heard her sing. What did you hear? The lawyer asks gently. Will swallows. Honesty. Hurt. Beauty. Things we weren't trained to understand. A pause. And Officer Griggs, the lawyer prompts. Wills hesitates. You see his fingers grip the wooden armrest. He said she was provoking unrest. Said we needed to send a message. And did you believe her singing was a threat? Wills looks out at the courtroom. No, it was the truth. And sometimes that's what men like Griggs fear most. The silence that follows is thick. Lena doesn't speak. She just watches. Still. Centered. Like a lighthouse waiting for the fog to leave. Then Crawley calls for a recess. The crowd spills into the hallway, but no one leaves the building. They hover. Whisper. Wait. You find yourself by the window, watching the street below. It's packed. Not angry. Not loud. Just full. Folks holding hands. Sharing radios. One woman has a phonograph strapped to a wagon, spinning Lena's record slow and steady. A teenage boy hands out lyric sheets. A deacon prays over a box of speakers. And then, before court reconvenes, a group of students begin humming. Inside the courtroom, you hear it. Outside, you feel it. When the judge returns, he doesn't speak right away. He folds his hands, looks at Lena, then at the crowd, then at the ceiling, like he's asking for an answer he already knows. Then he says, "This court vacates the conviction of Ms. Lena Mae Freeman." A breath releases from the room. Not a cheer, not applause, just a collective exhale. You see Lena's shoulders lower, and her lips part. She hums. One note. Soft. Clear. The same one that started this whole thing. And every soul in that room. They hum it too. Because when the truth finally wins, it doesn't shout. It sings. You walk out of the courthouse into something that doesn't feel like a crowd. It feels like a chorus. The moment Lena steps outside, the hush rolls over the street like velvet. People don't scream. They don't swarm. They just part for her, slow and reverent, like the Red Sea meeting rhythm and grace. She stands on the top step, blinking into the sunlight. Her hands are free now, and the city sees it. You're a few feet back, but you can still feel the weight of her presence, lighter than it should be for someone who just carried an entire movement on her shoulders. She turns toward the people and smiles. Then she raises one hand. Not high, just enough. And the music begins, not from her lips this time, but from everyone else's. Hundreds of voices, different keys, different tempos, but all humming the same tune. The one she sang in her cell. The one that crawled through bricks and bars. The one that slipped into radio waves and found its way into jukeboxes and church pews and porch swings. Lena doesn't sing. She listens. Maybe for the first time in months. A reporter steps forward, microphone in hand. "Miss Freeman," he says, "do you have any comment for those who followed your story?" She looks down at her shoes. Worn, but polished. She taps her toe once on the concrete, then lifts her gaze. "I didn't ask to lead a parade," she says. "I just didn't want to stop singing." The reporter opens his mouth again, but she's already turning away, walking slowly down the courthouse steps, shaking hands, hugging strangers, taking time. Because she knows what just happened wasn't an ending. It was an unmuting. You spend the rest of the day drifting. Every block you pass has a piece of her in it. A record spinning in a barbershop. A child scribbling lyrics on the sidewalk with chalk. A woman rocking her baby and humming a lullaby you know Lena's sang once behind bars. The city doesn't move like it used to. It glides. You pass by Officer Griggs's old patrol route. His face is nowhere now. Not on badges. Not in cars. The silence he tried to build has been gutted. Replaced by radios and vinyls and humming circles that don't need permission to gather anymore. Rumor is he's taken a leave. Another says he left town. But truth be told, no one really asked where he went. He stopped matching when he stopped listening. That evening, there's no official celebration. No confetti. No parade. Just doorways open wide. Speakers perched on windowsills. People on stoops. Dinner tables covered in cornbread and catfish and red velvet cake. And everywhere, her voice playing. You sit on your own porch, the record turning slow, the night air warm. And from your neighbor's yard, you hear a girl singing softly. Not perfectly, not professionally, but honestly, just like Lena. And you realize, this song isn't a hit anymore. It's a heritage. You wake the next morning to sunlight sliding through the curtains like gold dust, and for the first time in weeks, there's no heaviness in your chest. The city is quiet, not silent, but resting. Like lungs exhaling after holding breath too long. You wander through downtown Memphis with no destination, letting your feet follow memory. The first thing you notice is the murals. Overnight, someone, or maybe several someones, painted Lena's profile in long, sweeping brushstrokes on the side of the old Red Lantern Lounge. Her eyes are closed. Her mouth slightly open, as if still mid-note. And behind her, a rising sun made of sheet music spirals upward like a new dawn. Beneath it, 3 words. Let her sing. A man with a ladder and paint-covered overalls nods at you as he touches up the edge of her silhouette. He doesn't say a word. He just hums. You walk on, past a newspaper kiosk plastered with bold headlines. Case dropped. Legend rises. Blues that freed his city. The voice that changed the rules. At the corner cafe, they're handing out lyric sheets with coffee. You see 2 teenagers rapping Lena's verses over a jazz piano. An old man selling harmonicas from a cardboard box labeled, "Play Something True." And a little girl dragging a stuffed bear down the sidewalk, humming with such focus you'd swear she was in church. But the biggest surprise? The festival. It's not official, not on any poster, but it happens anyway. They call it the Blues Rebirth, a day of music played on stoops, in alleys, on rooftops. People bring folding chairs, turn their radios out to the street. Kids dance. Grandmothers nod in time. And no matter where you go, someone's playing her. Not just her old songs. New ones. Written by other singers. By choirs. By kids who never even saw Lena in person. Inspired by her rhythm. Her honesty. You spot a booth with records for sale. A new pressing, the Jailhouse Tapes, Volume 1. A handwritten label says, proceeds go to future voices. You buy 2 copies. Back at the Red Lantern, they've reopened the doors not as a bar, but a music school. They call it the Lena May Institute for Free Sound. It's not just for singers. It's for anyone who ever got quiet because someone else made them. Inside, you see walls lined with lyrics from jail cells around the country, lines from women, from men, from kids. Stories carved into melodies. Testimonies wrapped in rhythm. You spot Lena herself near the back, sitting at a small desk, scribbling in a notebook with a chewed-up pencil. She looks up when she hears the door, offers a soft smile. Not one that says, I won. Just one that says, you're welcome here. You nod. She nods back. No need for words. Because everything worth saying? It's already been sung. That night, the streetlights glow softer. The candles outside the courthouse have burned down to stubs, but no one puts them out. They let them fade on their own. Because now, there's no fear of darkness returning. Not when the city has learned how to hum. The years pass, but the tune doesn't fade. You walk through Memphis on a calm spring morning, the kind where every breeze feels like it's carrying something remembered. Lena May's name isn't just in the air now, it's in the brick, the soil, the bones of the place. She never left, not really. After her release, she didn't go on tour. Didn't chase fame. Didn't sign with a big label or sell her story for a movie. She stayed. She taught. She built. The Lena May Institute grows each year. From one classroom above the old Red Lantern, to a 3-story building down the block with a recording studio, a performance hall, and a scholarship program for any voice too often told to be quiet. You visit it sometimes, just to sit, to listen. Today, Lena's in the garden behind the school, humming while she waters tomatoes. She still wears the same hat she wore during her court hearing, a little more frayed now, the brim soft with time. A young girl comes out from the back door, sheet music in hand, nervous eyes searching. I can't hit that high note, she says. Lena doesn't flinch. Don't chase the note, she replies gently. Let it find you. The girl nods. Writes that down like it's scripture. Because maybe it is. You leave them there, one watering tomatoes, the other learning to carry her own storm. As you stroll through town, you notice plaques on buildings you never saw before. Here's where Lena sang her first verse. Here's where she was arrested. Here's where the people hummed. Each one a note in the symphony she didn't write, but became. There's an alley now called Freeman Way. At night, someone always plays her songs there. No stage, no spotlight. Just a stool, a speaker, and sometimes a kid with a harmonica playing along. You stop by one night and listen. The musician's only maybe 15, but he plays like someone who's been hurt and healed all in the same breath. When he finishes, he looks up, not expecting applause. Just recognition. And he gets it. Because by now, everyone knows the tune. At the end of the block, there's a bronze statue not of Lena holding a mic, but seated on a wooden crate, head slightly tilted, eyes closed, as if listening to a song only she can hear. Tourists take photos. Locals take their lunch breaks beside her. And children? They touch her hand like it might hum. You sit on the bench across from her and close your eyes. And in that moment, you hear everything. The juke joint's first gasp. The clang of the cell door. The hush of the courtroom. The 100 voices rising from the sidewalk. The judge's gavel softening into mercy. The slow fade of chains into rhythm. And then her voice. Older now. Weathered. But still undeniably Lena. Singing from the porch behind the institute as twilight slips in like a warm shawl. She doesn't sing for crowds anymore. She sings because she always did. Because music, once set free, doesn't go quiet. It finds a way. And tonight, it finds you. Now, let that final note settle. Breathe in slowly, like you're taking in the last chords of a lullaby played just for you. The kind of tune that doesn't demand attention, but gently receives it. The kind that walks beside you, not in front of you. Close your eyes, if you haven't already. Picture those Memphis streets again, hushed and golden under the lamplight, the pavement still warm from the day. Somewhere, a record turns on a dusty shelf. Someone sings through an open window. Maybe it's a mother rocking her child. Maybe it's a young boy chasing shadows on the sidewalk. Maybe it's just the wind, curling into the shape of a memory. Lena's voice. It's not just a voice anymore. It's a feeling, a knowing. The deep truth that no matter how heavy the silence, someone, somewhere, will find the courage to hum. And that's all it takes, isn't it? One hum, one note, carried from person to person like a promise wrapped in melody. So wherever you are right now, under soft sheets, beside someone warm, or alone but held by story, know this. The world is full of songs that refuse to be forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, you are one of them. Sleep easy, friend. Your tune matters too.